Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Final update, Terminated, and company says I can't sue. New York. Original post. I held a management position at a company. I asked a non-management female employee to step into another room to discuss her performance away from other employees. She was going through a divorce and had made a few mistakes, and while I didn't want to embarrass her, I did want to make sure the mistakes were addressed. She acknowledged it and thanked me. An hour later, I was escorted from my office by security and was informed by my boss that a harassment complaint had been made and proper protocol was to suspend me. I asked what it was and was told, "We need to investigate. I can't disclose that." He assured me that it shouldn't take long, and if I wasn't guilty of anything, I'd be paid for the time out. I again asked what the accusation was and was told that, as there was an ongoing investigation, I was not permitted to know, but if they had questions, I would be contacted. I wasn't happy, but knowing that I didn't do anything wrong, I left the building. Later that night, I received a notification on my phone that my email password was incorrect. After 2 days, I called my boss asking for an update and was told he was not available but I would hear something soon. I began calling daily and received the same response. Finally, I received a letter in the mail informing me that I was terminated for exposing myself and requesting intimate favors from an employee. The employee listed was the young lady I had pulled into the side room. I immediately called up my boss and was told he is unavailable and said to say the matter is closed. My buddy, the IT guy, messaged me on Facebook asking what happened, as he'd been told to deactivate my accounts. When I told him the whole story, he replied, "You took her into the X room. Dude, there's a security camera in there. We keep Y in there, so we always have the camera on." Sure enough, he pulls the footage and there I am, holding a pile of papers, pointing to them, and keeping my pants on the whole time. I left a message for my boss that the alleged incident occurred in a room with surveillance, and that I would be contacting an attorney and subpoenaing the video record. I received a call back 15 minutes later asking me to please participate in a phone conference with him and HR. The conference went as expected. They didn't realize it had occurred in a room with surveillance. They have a zero-tolerance policy that they have to enforce, as you can't be too careful in this day and age. They regret that this didn't come to light sooner. They've already replaced me, and as it wouldn't be fair to terminate my replacement as she's done nothing wrong, they don't have a job to offer me back. However, as a gesture of goodwill, they're going to pay me through my suspension, change my file so it reads that I voluntarily resigned, and provide me a good reference. I replied that wasn't acceptable. They made an accusation against me, withheld vital information that I could have easily refuted, refused to take my calls, and completely failed in their own investigation by not checking video footage that would have immediately exonerated me. They asked what I thought would be fair. I told them they could immediately terminate the employee who made the accusation, and either give me my job back or pay me out 1 year's salary in addition to what was offered. My boss said that he could not discuss another employee with me, and that neither of those options are feasible. The only options I have are what he already offered. I replied that the options I gave are the only way. I am not going to sue the company along with the employee. My boss replied that I signed an agreement when I was first hired, saying I would take all disputes through arbitration and that I waived my right to sue the company. I do not remember signing the agreement, and I have not seen it, but it apparently says that I will take all disputes to arbitration, I will bear the costs of arbitration, and that I will accept the decision in arbitration. He stated that I will not fare any better in arbitration than he's already offered, and I'll be out the money to cover the arbitration. I feel like I'm being bullied here, and don't think he would have scheduled a phone conference with such immediacy if he didn't think the company was vulnerable to a lawsuit. I'm waiting on a callback from a few employment attorneys. Do I have a case? Am I wrong to feel that this is unacceptable? Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Don't take legal advice from your opponent. Of course you can sue. The feasibility of winning that suit is best discussed with your attorney. That's why I came here. They certainly don't have my best interests in mind. Get a lawyer and have him subpoena that video before it gets lost. I have the whole conference on tape. My boss admitted that the tape proves the accusation was unfounded, and had they seen it earlier, they could have offered me my job back. Have your IT friend make a copy of that video for you, in case the original happens to get lost. And make sure you have a legally obtained copy. Any legal action you take against the company and or the false complainant will need this. As for the video, yes, I do need a legal copy. The IT guy has a backup on his laptop, so if it gets lost, he'll be able to produce it. Of course they say you can't sue, because they know they messed up. You absolutely can sue. That's what I thought. I'm just so frustrated, and felt like it was such a slap in the face what they offered. Now for the first update. Quite a bit has happened in the last few weeks. A friend of mine at another company, after hearing what happened, told me his company had an opening. I applied, interviewed, and at the end the manager asked me what I like to be called. 2 days later I got a call saying they'd gone with another candidate. My friend admitted to me that he'd gotten some flack for recommending me. Apparently HR had worked with one of the employees at my former company and called the employee to ask what the deal was with me. To which the employee responded, he got fired for being inappropriate with a subordinate. I think he's actually being charged criminally. I'm literally crying as I type this. It's a nightmare that won't end. Long story short, I lost it, called up my old company, boss wouldn't get on the phone with me, had an attorney draft a letter of demand and send it off, had another phone conference scheduled. They once again regret that an employee provided a reference outside of the prescribed channels. The employee was coached on the proper way to handle such requests. My attorney informed them that in addition to wrongful termination, we would be adding defamation to our complaint against them. They insist that they have not broken any laws and that they cannot control the actions of an individual employee who went against company policy. So we're at an impasse there. Either I move ahead against them or I walk away. At this point I'm ready to drag this through court. I tried to take the high road and go elsewhere, but they're regretting a lot that they've done to me without any action to correct it. Oh, I almost forgot. A few days after my last post, they sent me a packet of papers, standard non-disclosure notifications, COBRA, and a blank copy of the arbitration agreement for me to sign. Why a blank one, you ask? Well, it seems somebody messed up. They weren't making people sign when I was hired, and HR never bothered to have me sign the agreement when I worked there. I of course have signed nothing that they sent me, including that agreement. I considered allowing arbitration if they pay the costs, and I have approval over who is selected, but my attorney has advised not to do that. I wish I had better news to report. Things aren't as hopeless as they'd first seemed, but not as easily fixable either. As for the employee who made the accusation, I know you're eager to hear, but at this point I can't comment on what's happening there. Thanks for all of the advice and support so far. I promise to update when everything resolves, if not sooner, as much as I can. Now for the final update. Everything has resolved, and I've been wanting to give you guys an update, but had to wait until my lawyer gave me the okay to talk about things. So let's start from the beginning. I pulled one of my direct reports, Deborah, into another room to discuss a few mistakes she made, but did not discipline her further. After this, she went to Joyce, one of the managers above me but not in my direct line of report, equal to my boss in terms of reporting structure. When Joyce heard that I had taken Deborah into another room without any witnesses, she said to her that it was unprofessional. Apparently her exact words were, you could accuse him of being inappropriate with you, and I would have no choice but to believe you. This was repeated several times, with a strong emphasis on no choice. Joyce then asked Deborah if I had been inappropriate with her, saying, it will only happen again if you don't speak up now. If you do now, we can take action. Taking the not at all subtle hint from Joyce, Deborah accused me of exposing myself to her, and I was placed on leave, pending an investigation. Joyce immediately sent out an email that nobody besides the secretary was to speak with me without an attorney present, and told the IT guy, Paul, to deactivate my access. James, my boss, had a resume from Terry, an employee in Joyce's department, applying for my job before close of business that day, and she was hired. Paul and I talked. He provided me with video proving my innocence. The company continued to stonewall me, and refused to talk to me. When they did, they attempted to push me into arbitration, and to retroactively sign an arbitration agreement. I cut my losses, took another job, and was ready to move on. Sandy, an employee in Joyce's department, broke protocol, talked to HR at the new company, and told them I had been inappropriate with a subordinate, and cost me the job. So that brings us up to date. My attorney and I launched a civil suit against the company and Deborah. Bet you're wondering how I know the above. Well, good old Joyce said she'd protect Deborah if she came forward. Unfortunately, that only extended to her job. So, when she was named individually in this suit, corporate told her they would not be providing her an attorney. After realizing that she'd be putting her house up for collateral, she was all too willing to throw Joyce under the bus. Joyce went to Paul, the IT guy, who was one of her reports, and gave him a list of footage to be procedurally wiped as part of an archive clear out. He pointed out that the incident with me was on that list, and part of an ongoing investigation. Joyce told him that it was no longer needed and to go ahead and wipe it. He refused, citing the fact that it would still be requested in the event that the suit moved forward. She told him to pack his things as he was being terminated for insubordination. He called the company attorney and informed her what had happened. The aftermath. Several things happened at once, so I'll try to keep them as chronological as I can. Deborah's attorney contacted mine stating that, Conditional on me dropping the suit, she would admit that she lied and explain what went on behind the scenes. Dana, the company attorney, got the call from my attorney with the details from Deborah shortly after she finished talking with Paul about him being terminated for refusing to destroy evidence. Deborah and Joyce were terminated for cause that day, while Paul was told that his job was safe. My attorney received a call, and it was made clear that the company didn't want this to go any further and wanted to talk settlement. I won't go into all of the details, but what I can say, I was offered my job back with a very fair increase. I received back pay from the date of suspension, and a public apology was offered from the very top. Terry is now working in Joyce's old position. She's incredibly cool about things and felt horrified when she found out what happened. James and I are good now, and he has personally apologized for not sticking up for me. This will likely be my final update. There is still some legal battle ongoing, but I can't go into that too much. Thank you for all of your support and encouragement. You guys rock. Now for more comments. I'd use your increased salary as a stepping stone to finding a new job now. Management at your company is beyond incompetent. That HR department isn't fit to manage a food truck, much less the staffing at this company. The legal department really dropped the ball here as well. At every step of the way, they were wide open to damages and proceeded as if they got their degrees from Hollywood upstairs law school. Use your new salary to get a higher paying job at a company that isn't run by Laurel and Hardy, and do what you can on your way out to get Sandy canned. And James, screw that guy. Very likely searching for a new job in the next couple months. Also, make sure as part of the settlement they have to take steps to undo the damage caused by telling the other company about the allegations. So the big question I have, what exactly is Joyce's beef with you that she took the first opportunity to take you out? Why did she go through all of the easily verifiable channels to try and wreck your career? I mean, she tried to enlist not one, but two separate patsies in this. One of whom knew about the whole situation and knew enough to immediately get legal involved, and another who would have to risk everything to try and prove a blatant lie. That just seems like poor planning on petty revenge to me. Why did she have a grudge? My guess, power. She's an ambitious person trying to get ahead in life. Terry and I were on equal level management-wise. The only difference is that I have more direct reports, whereas she was basically an assistant manager to Joyce, handled the department when Joyce was out by herself. So, Joyce saw an opportunity to put a surrogate in another management position and get a foothold into my area. I worked in offices for years, and jerks like Joyce are why I never want to do it again. A lot of people believe that the limited power they gain in management is beyond what they actually can do, and anyone that they can't count on as one of theirs is being insubordinate on purpose, even if you're just doing your job or not agreeing to delete evidence. The only way to keep up that illusion is to put people in those positions that will let them do whatever they please, and they absolutely cannot imagine that they aren't smart enough to cover their tracks. The more you discover they've effed up, the more opportunities they have to prove just how powerful they are. I'm pretty happy that her attempt at gaining power backfired this spectacularly. To be honest, I would not want to take a job back at the place who dropped the ball so hard here. Yeah, I feel like the well is poisoned there. Oh, for sure, even with an apology, I would never trust the leadership there. But it's also much easier to get a new job when you have a job. He also doesn't have to put a period of absence on his resume as well. Getting back pay would have been useful too, but 100% he should be looking for a new job. If nothing else, this shows how having built personal relationships with key staff can help you so much more than simply following proper procedure and/or lawyering up. OP would not have done well had his friend not informed him about the surveillance footage. I'm wondering how come Sandy escaped punishment for torpedoing OP's application at the other company. It sounds like Sandy got a slap on the wrist for going outside of protocol. I do wonder if Sandy knew for sure it was a lie or was just repeating what was already obviously going around the office. I felt like Joyce was behind Sandy's actions a little bit too. I would not be surprised since same department. I guess my thought ran along the lines of whether Joyce specifically told Sandy that it was a lie and say it, or if Joyce just spread it loudly around the department and company, and Sandy, not knowing it was a lie, shared it thinking she was helping the other company. Either way, the blame lies mostly on Joyce. I'm very confused on why Deborah felt the need to lie. It seems kind of obvious Joyce wanted to push out OP to hire her friend in OP's place, but what exactly was Deborah supposed to gain from this? I'm glad OP got his job back with back pay and a substantial raise, but that company deserved to be sued into a corporate casket. If her performance is slipping, then she gets protection. She was harassed on company time, on company property by a manager, and therefore she is untouchable for a while. Plus she gets a new boss who is friends with the manager she went to, and as a result, gets protection from her manager for any shortcoming. She might have seen it as job protection while going through a divorce. Yes, I did have a female coworker who knew she was on her last chance before being fired, try to pull that on our manager. I got dragged into it as a witness. All our offices had windows, I could see right into hers, and I shared an office with the manager, so I knew it hadn't happened in hours. Then she said it happened after hours, but she'd never stayed later than I did. Stuff like that.